We're about 21 minutes away from the point at which Dragon will be directly above the station at a distance of some 220 meters. That's called Waypoint 1, a brief opportunity for the alignment of Dragon to the Harmony module to be assessed by the SpaceX team in Hawthorne before the command is given to begin final approach to Waypoint 2 and a distance of just 20 meters away from the station, and then the final go for docking, which means contact and capture, initiating the hooks, the 12 hooks that will permanently latch Dragon to the station's Harmony module for the next 5 weeks of its cargo delivery and scientific experiment delivery activity. Dragon and the station are flying from northwest to southeast across the Pacific Ocean at an altitude of about 260 statute miles. We're 1 hour 53 minutes away from the launch of the Soyuz MS-25 spacecraft with NASA astronaut Tracy Dyson, Roscosmos Soyuz commander Oleg Novitsky, and Marina Vasilevskaya, the spaceflight participant from Belarus. They are aboard their Soyuz spacecraft at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. The vehicle is fully fueled. The countdown is proceeding without a hitch toward an expected liftoff time of 7:36 and 10 seconds a.m. Central Time, 8:36 and 10 seconds a.m. Eastern Time, sending Dyson, Novitsky, and Vasilevskaya on a 34-orbit 2-day journey to the International Space Station for a docking to the Prishal module on the Earth-facing side of the Russian segment of the International Space Station, docking on Monday, scheduled at 10:09 a.m. Central Time, 11:09 a.m. Eastern Time. When we are complete with our Dragon docking coverage this morning, we'll take a quick pause and then resume our Soyuz launch coverage on this doubleheader day at 7 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on NASA television. A view over the Pacific Ocean of the Dragon cargo craft and its flashing lights visible to the Expedition 70 crew on board the International Space Station. We're about 16 minutes or so away from the Dragon arrival at what is called Waypoint 1. That's a gate post, basically 220 meters directly above the International Space Station. All of the rendezvous burns have been executed without incident. Everything in excellent shape on the Dragon as it closes in for contact and capture to the Harmony module's Zenith docking port. This is Mission Control Houston. If you're just joining us, you're looking at a view in darkness of the flashing lights on the SpaceX Dragon cargo ship launched from the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station 2 days ago. Now in the final stages of its approach for a docking to the International Space Station at about 6:16 a.m. Central Time, 7:16 a.m. Eastern Time, to deliver some 3 tons of supplies and science experiments to the Expedition 70 and soon Expedition 71 crews. We are just a couple of minutes away from Dragon's arrival at what is called Waypoint 1. That is a milestone of about 220 meters in distance above the International Space Station along what is called the R-bar, the radial vector, an imaginary line drawn between the station and the center of the Earth. We're about 26 minutes away from expected docking. Once the docking occurs, a series of hooks, 12 in all, will close in gangs of 6 each. That will form a hard mate between Dragon and the station's Harmony module, setting the stage for leak checks at the docking interface that will be conducted by the station crew members prior to the opening of the hatch between the station and Dragon, and then the Dragon hatch itself later this morning, allowing the crew members to begin unloading the most time-critical cargo and the science equipment that will be set up for about 5 weeks of science data gathering. Meanwhile, down at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, countdown clocks also ticking toward the launch of the Soyuz MS-25 spacecraft 1 hour, 45 minutes from now. That will send NASA's Tracy Dyson Roscosmos Soyuz commander Oleg Novitsky and Belarus spaceflight participant Marina Vasilevskaya into the beginning of a 2-day journey to reach the International Space Station and a docking to the station's Prishal module on Monday morning. The second launch attempt that's coming up follows a last-second scrub of Thursday's initial launch attempt due to the detection of a low voltage reading in the electrical system of the Soyuz 2.1A booster's electrical system. Batteries in that system were changed out on Friday and retested, and everything is set to go with the vehicle now fully fueled and the crew strapped into their seats in the descent module, the center section of the 3-section Soyuz vehicle. We'll transition out of Dragon docking coverage into Soyuz launch coverage at 7 a.m. Central Time, 8 a.m. Eastern Time.
Station Houston on space to ground 2. Houston is go for Dragon to approach to waypoint 2.
Station copies, go.
You heard the voice of spacecraft communicator David Brenna here in Mission Control in Houston, and the acknowledgement by NASA astronaut Laurel O'Hara aboard the International Space Station that Dragon has been given the go from the mission director at Hawthorne, California for SpaceX, and concurred by Flight Director Ronak Dave here in Mission Control to enable Dragon to approach inside the keep-out sphere to a distance of about 20 meters away from the International Space Station. That should be occurring a short time from now. This is Mission Control Houston. The SpaceX Dragon cargo craft now less than 300 meters away from the International Space Station, having given a go for approach to what is called Waypoint 2. That's a intermediary stoppage point, putting the brakes on basically for a final evaluation of its systems at a distance of about 20 meters or so away from the station before the go is given for final approach for contact and capture. We are about to enter into an orbital sunrise for Dragon and the International Space Station over the South Pacific as the two craft will make their way from northwest to southeast, crossing the southern coast of Chile.
EHS, air quality monitor in 6.5, the user account.
With you on 2, Matt, we copy.
For situational awareness, the expected docking time for Dragon to the Harmony module's Zenith, or space-facing docking port, will come about 1 hour and 20 minutes before the scheduled launch of Soyuz MS-25 from the Baikonur Cosmodrome, as a flurry of activity is unfolding here in Mission Control in Houston, the SpaceX Control Center in Hawthorne, California, the Russian Mission Control Center on the outskirts of Moscow, and the focus of attention after Dragon this morning at the launch pad with Launch Pad 6, Site 31 of the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. And as we move into an orbital sunrise, a better view now of the strobe lights on the forward portion of the Dragon cargo craft, slowly but surely making its way toward the beginning of its terminal phase of its rendezvous. Everything, all of the burns from the Draco thrusters have been automated and have been executed in excellent fashion. You can see just off to the side of Dragon, that's the open nose cap that was commanded open some 13 minutes after Dragon's launch atop its Falcon 9 rocket from the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station on Thursday. The opening of the nose cap exposing the docking mechanism on the forward port of Dragon, as you can see, is closing in on the space station. This view now of the same perspective that Laurel O'Hara and Mike Barrett are seeing on their monitors inside the cupola as they monitor the approach of Dragon in the final moments before docking, which is scheduled some 15 minutes from now. We expect to reach waypoint 1. That's the point of a distance of about 220 meters between Dragon and the station, directly above the station. That's coming up about 10 seconds from now. And Dragon now is passing waypoint 1 into the keep out sphere. Again, there are two imaginary boundaries, if you will. One is the approach ellipsoid. That's a oval-shaped area around the International Space Station. The second, a circular area called the keep-out sphere, essentially the point of the terminal phase of the rendezvous that brings Dragon towards its destination today, the zenith or space-facing port of the Harmony module. And there you see the pre-programmed thruster firings on Dragon as it precisely aligns itself with the Harmony docking port. The Crew 8 Dragon that brought Matt Dominic, Mike Barrett, Jeanette Epps, and Alexander Grobenkin to the station earlier this month is docked to the forward docking port of Harmony. Once the SpaceX Cargo Dragon craft departs the Zenith port to which it's arriving this morning, once it departs that Zenith port about 5 weeks from now, Crew 8 will climb into its Dragon vehicle and do a relocation, undocking from the forward port of Harmony, redocking to this same Zenith port that the Cargo Dragon is going to this morning. That opens up the forward port of Harmony for the arrival in early May of the Boeing Starliner crew commercial craft that will bring on the crew flight test or CFT mission astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams on the first crewed test flight of the new Boeing Starliner vehicle. As we continue to watch Dragon approaching the International Space Station, thruster firings again automatically programmed. As Dragon fine-tunes its path to the station, we're continuing to receive updates from the launch pad at Baikonur. The three Soyuz MS-25 crew members, Tracy Dyson, Oleg Novitsky, and Marina Vasilevskaya, are conducting leak checks on their Sokol launch and entry suits inside the descent module. The Soyuz 2.1A booster fully fueled, ready for launch 1.5 hours from now.
And back with you on 2 Laurel. At waypoint 2, Dragon will briefly pause to align for docking, then automatically resume approach.
Copy, brief pause at waypoint 2.
Laurel O'Hara acknowledging the call from spacecraft communicator David Brenna here in Mission Control. As is planned, the Dragon cargo ship will put the brakes on for just a brief period of station keeping at what is called waypoint 2, a distance of just 20 meters from the docking port on the space-facing side of Harmony. Once those diagnostics are complete, then the go will be given for final approach and docking.
Station Houston on 2 for Matt.
Here in Mission Control, Flight Director Ronak Dave will be polling his team of flight controllers to get a go for approach to waypoint 2. A good view of Dragon, its nose cap open, on automated approach for a docking that is scheduled at about 6:16 a.m. Central Time, 7:16 a.m. Eastern Time, some 9 minutes from now. Flight controllers at Hawthorne, California for SpaceX report that Dragon's systems are now configured for docking. Dragon now on final approach, crossing the 100-meter mark. All of Dragon's systems in excellent shape. A final poll being taken here in Mission Control for a go for docking. All the flight control positions here in Mission Control have pulled go for docking. Dragon now 80 meters away. Once again, the view you're seeing is the same view that Mike Barrett and Laurel O'Hara are privy to in the cupola as they monitor Dragon's final approach for contact and capture that is scheduled about 8 minutes from now, about 5 minutes actually from now. Dragon and the International Space Station now flying some 262 statute miles over the South Atlantic, about to begin a southwest to northeasterly swing that will carry it across the west coast of Africa a short time from now. Now approaching 50 meters. We're in a momentary handover between satellites on the Tracking and Data Relay satellite system. We'll get back the video signal here shortly.
Houston Station on 2 for AirPop.
With you on 2, go ahead.
We're seeing on RPOP on SSC 16 that we're getting ranges from node 2 forward DP to visiting vehicle DP. The corridor is showing good though.
Laurel, we copy. We're going to have Pluto fix it from here.
Dragon now 30 meters away. Dragon now approaching the final gate called Waypoint 2. Right before docking, you'll hear a call, the CHOP call. That's the acronym for Crew Hands-Off Point, where the crew no longer will have the capability to issue an abort command in the unlikely event a last-second technical issue would crop up.
And Station Houston on 2 for Laurel. We think it'll be faster if you do it yourself, and you can do that by pressing Control F8. You'll have to keep cycling through it until you get what you want.
We are all
Station Houston on Space Ground 2. Dragon is on final approach and is go for docking. Monitor percepts 5 and 6 and 1.102. Dragon approach and retreat monitoring.
copy, go for docking. We're in step 5. We see range at 17 meters. Attitude as expected.
We copy. Good words.
Laurel O'Hara acknowledging a distance of about 17 meters separating Dragon from station. We're about 3 minutes away from contact and capture. You're looking right down the barrel of the zenith or space-facing docking port of the Harmony module of the International Space Station, where the Dragon cargo ship will spend the next 5 weeks. "11 meters away. Dragon very stable, nominal rates reported. Moving inside the 10-meter mark. "7 meters now separating Dragon and the space station. Crew is standing by. "5 meters now. Good orientation by Dragon, very stable. "2 meters away, standing by for contact and capture. Crew is now hands off, no abort commands capable anymore. And we have contact and capture, soft capture complete at
Houston,
6:19
Dragon
a.m.
contact and
Central
soft capture
Time,
complete.
7:19 a.m. Eastern Time, as Dragon and the space station flew 262 miles over the South Atlantic just west of Africa. Once again, now we're waiting for relative motion between the two vehicles to dampen out before the initiation of the 12 hooks on Dragon that will form a hard mate between itself and the International Space Station. The docking ring retraction is now in progress. That basically pulls the two vehicles tightly together. Once again, docking occurring at 6:19 a.m. Central Time, 7:19 a.m. Eastern Time, as the International Space Station and the SpaceX Dragon cargo craft flew over the South Atlantic just west of Africa. The Dragon cargo craft completing a textbook 2-day journey following its launch on Thursday afternoon from the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. Two Dragons now at the station. This cargo Dragon at the zenith or space-facing port. The Crew 8 Dragon that brought Matt Dominic, Mike Barrett, Jeanette Epps, and Alexander Grabenkin to the station earlier this month at the forward port of Harmony. We are standing by for the initiation of the hooks on Dragon to begin to close. 2 gangs of 6 hooks apiece that will form a hard mate between Dragon and the station. Then an umbilical is extended that provides power between the station and Dragon, so Dragon can draw station power for the duration of its 5-week stay on board. We now have a good alignment between Dragon and the international docking adapter to which Dragon linked up to just a couple of minutes ago. And while we're standing by for the initiation of the hooks to close, just a note, at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, we're 1 hour, 12 minutes away from the launch of Soyuz MS-25. The crew is on board. The vehicle is fully fueled, ready for launch at 7:36 a.m. Central Time, 8:36 a.m. Eastern Time. Launch coverage will begin at the top of the hour on NASA Television and NASA Plus at 7 a.m. Central Time, 8 a.m. Eastern.
Station Houston, MCS configured, proceeding with hook driving.
Copy.
And that call from spacecraft communicator David Brenna here in Mission Control to Laurel O'Hara indicates that we should be seeing the initiation of the hooks driving on Dragon to form a hard mate between itself and the ISS a short time from now. The first set of hooks now driving. This is Mission Control Houston. Once again, we're waiting for the completion of the driving of the hooks to form a hard mate between the newly arrived Dragon cargo craft, which linked up to the International Space Station's Harmony module, the Zenith or space-facing port, about 10 minutes ago at 6:19 a.m. Central Time, 7:19 a.m. Eastern Time. And we're now hearing that the second set of hooks are now driving and engaging.
Station Houston on space to ground 2. Hard capture complete.
And we have a hard mate.
Mission copies, hard capture complete. Congratulations to NASA and SpaceX. It was a beautiful approach and docking from up here. We're looking forward to getting into Dragon and getting going on all the research on board. And also finding all the goodies too.
Hey, thanks so much for the words, Laura. We really appreciate it.
This is Mission Control Houston. You heard the confirmation of hooks closed, forming a hard mate between Dragon and the Harmony module's Zenith International Docking Adapter. So the cargo vehicle carrying 3 tons of supplies and science equipment to the station, now firmly in place. An umbilical is being attached between Dragon and the station so Dragon can receive station power. Meanwhile, at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, you're looking live at the Soyuz MS-25 on the launch pad. It's pad 6, site 31 at the Central Asian Spaceport. As the countdown has passed the T-minus 1 hour 5 minute mark, on board the descent module, encapsulated in the upper stage of the Soyuz booster, are NASA's Tracy Dyson, Roscosmos Soyuz commander Oleg Novitsky, and Belarus spaceflight participant Marina Vasilevskaya. They are ready to launch at 7:36 a.m. Central Time, 8:36 a.m. Eastern Time, on a 2-day journey to reach the International Space Station. Our coverage will begin at the top of the hour at 7 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central Time, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. This is Mission Control Houston. Docking now confirmed and complete with the extension and attachment of the umbilical between the station and the Dragon cargo craft that linked up to the Harmony module at 6:19 a.m. Central Time, 7:19 a.m. Eastern Time. It was a perfect 2-day journey from its launch at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station on Thursday to its arrival on the station today for a 5-week delivery mission. So with that, we'll wrap up our coverage temporarily here from Mission Control. We'll be back on the air in just 27 minutes at the top of the hour with our Soyuz launch coverage, sending another crew to the International Space Station. In the meantime, this is Mission Control Houston.
It's a new era of pioneers, star sailors, thinkers, and adventurers.
3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running.
Let's go.
We have been given the scientific knowledge, the technical ability, and the material to pursue the exploration of the universe.
Across the nation are sacred sites that capture the spirit of America's character. And one of those places is right here, the Kennedy Space Center.
Every single vehicle that has carried humans beyond the bounds of low Earth orbit has undergone integration and testing in that vehicle assembly building, crawled down this roadway and launched right here from the Kennedy Space Center. The Space Launch System, mated with the Orion spacecraft, will continue this proud tradition.
As soon as we roll out of the vehicle assembly building, High Bay 3, and the world gets a chance to see this rocket, I think it is going to be shocking.
On March 17th, NASA took a giant step toward returning humanity to the moon. The fully assembled Space Launch System rocket and Orion spacecraft for the Artemis 1 mission made its debut outside the massive vehicle assembly building.
We've seen the mobile launcher outside, and it's massive, but now add an over 300-foot rocket on top of it, it's just going to be amazing.
Charlie Blackwell Thompson oversees the launch countdown, ultimately providing the go for launch.
Entity, launch director, representing this team and all the men and women that have worked to make this day happen, I proudly give you a go to roll the Artemis launch vehicle to the pad.
Ladies and gentlemen, the world's most powerful rocket right here.
Once outside, the rocket began its nearly 4-mile journey to the pad, riding atop a 6.6 million pound crawler transporter, which was originally constructed to transport the Apollo moon rocket.
In 1 year, we have completely stacked the vehicle. We completed most of our testing, all very successful, and we are so close to launch, and the excitement is just crazy.
Now NASA's new moon rocket is making the same journey the Saturn V took 50 years ago.
And just as all eyes are on the SLS tonight as it makes its journey, in a few short weeks, all eyes are going to be on the sky as it rocks the space coast and takes its maiden flight around the moon.
It is amazing to see the culmination of all of this work of many years from many industries and many people that have come and go, to have a chance to then now see their work going over to the pad and then launching to go to the moon.
The rocket is rolling to historic Launch Complex 39B. It's launch pad used for both Apollo and shuttle launches, sending hundreds of astronauts to space throughout the decades, and now on tap to send hundreds more as we return to the moon and venture beyond to Mars. But for this mission, there will be no astronauts on board. Before the uncrewed Artemis 1 stack can launch to our nearest celestial body, it has to travel to the pad for a wet dress rehearsal, a test to run the rocket, capsule, launch team, and launch pad through their paces, simulating a launch countdown.
When we get to the pad team will be connecting all the interfaces between the pad and the mobile launcher so that we can go ahead and start our operations at the pad. So at that point, the launch director really takes over, and she will go down the sequence as if it was really a normal launch day.
Wet dress rehearsal is essentially launch without a launch. It is really the reason we're doing it is to verify and validate all of the pieces that go into launch countdown. So wet dress is really our opportunity to find any issues or adjustments that we need to make in our launch countdown.
For Artemis 1, the wet dress rehearsal is the final and most critical test before the rocket can return to the launch pad for liftoff to the moon. During the countdown, over 730,000 gallons of supercooled liquid propellants will be loaded into the rocket as part of the nearly 2-day launch countdown.
We will configure all of the ground systems exactly the way we would for launch, and we will fully load the core stage and the interim cryopropulsion stage with their liquid fuels. That'll be the first time that that's been done from here at Kennedy Space Center. There have been pieces of these things done in multiple different areas, We've tested all of these systems in multiple different locations, but this will be the first time where we pull it all together and do all of it all in the same progression that we've got laid out for launch countdown.
Wet dress is the biggest milestone we have aside from launch, because that means that the rocket is now put together, has been tested separately and together, and it is ready to go and be filled with fuel to simulate how we're going to do it at the pad, and then it tells us the rocket is ready to go for launch.
And behind that wet dress rehearsal is a launch team made up of hundreds of engineers monitoring each system of the 320-foot-tall Artemis 1 rocket and capsule. Sitting in firing room 1 is the core launch control team, monitoring hundreds of launch commit criteria to ensure the ground systems and flight hardware are ready for launch.
Now you would think that launch control team in firing room 1 is it, that's all you need. We have an expansive support team across really the entire NASA enterprise that is supporting us on launch day.
And that support spans the entire nation, from additional systems engineers sitting in Kennedy's firing room 2, to the flight control team at Johnson Space Center in Houston, to the contractors responsible for designing and building each segment of the rocket and capsule.
This team is really shaping up to be a great, very skilled and ready to operate and execute launch for Artemis 1.
With the Artemis 1 launch team now fully certified and the wet dress rehearsal complete, SLS and Orion are ready for their final pit stop, returning to the VAB before venturing back to Launch Pad 39B for liftoff.
I mean, we are going, and we're going together, and we're having an opportunity to do this in a new generation of space exploration in which I can say that I'm honorably a part of.
You know, you come every day to the VAB and you see the rocket and you can't believe what we have accomplished.
People throughout history have always explored, and you never know what you're going to learn.
Exploration is not always about the destination, but it's the path that you travel, the things you learn along the way.
And the things we're going to learn are going to be incredible. We can't even begin to understand what those are today.
Our workforce has been a relentless spirit. We imagine, we build, we never stop pushing the envelope of what is possible.
NASA is preparing for a journey back to the moon, and after that, we're setting our sights on Mars. To get there, we need tons of rocket power coming from our Space Launch System.
When it comes to how much power this thing can push out, this thing is massive.
It's going to be mesmerizing to stand next to this massive vehicle. The immensity of it, knowing that this thing is going to be propelling a rocket into space and around the moon.
Hang on, it's probably best to start back at the beginning. It all started in Promontory, Utah, where Northrop Grumman manufactured each of the segments that make up the rocket's boosters. After a 10-day cross-country journey, the booster segments were delivered to Kennedy Space Center's Rotation, Processing, and Surge Facility, or RPSF. If this all sounds familiar, that's because it's the same facility that was used to process shuttle booster segments, which all came from Utah. Then they're ready to go to the iconic Vehicle Assembly Building, or VAB, where the rest of the motor segments are assembled and stacked on top of the mobile launcher.
So the one thing about this vehicle, of course, it's produced all across the country. Components all come here. They may be built around the country, but they all come together right here in the Vehicle Assembly Building.
Our SLS rocket will generate 8.8 million pounds of thrust to break through Earth's gravitational pull. That's more power than the space shuttle and the Saturn V rocket used. Teams with NASA's Exploration Ground Systems are responsible for assembling the boosters that will house the majority of that power. The twin solid rocket boosters, made up of 10 total motor segments, will stand nearly 17 stories when fully stacked. First, teams will inspect and prep the hardware. Next, they're ready to start stacking the segments, a process that takes time, patience, and a steady hand.
Once we have everything done in High Bay 4, we pick up the segment with the 325 crane, pick it up over the 16th floor crossover to where you see it now, and we begin stacking the segments. Each segment, we lift over the 16th floor crossover and stack it. Once we stack it, we put it on top of the segment below, and we put about 177 pins all the way around the whole thing to attach each segment.
And the pressure to perform the operation flawlessly can test the team's nerves.
There's a tremendous responsibility involved with processing flight hardware like this. It's nerve-wracking at times, but it's exciting. There's zero appetite for risk in a program like this.
We have a bunch of shuttle guys that are here to show us along the way. You know, if we get stuck, they're there to guide us. At the beginning of the stacking, it was very nerve-wracking. You know, with each segment that we stacked, a little bit of the nerve comes off. By the third or fourth one, it's easy peasy. You know, we're pushing through, all the jitters are gone, and we're just excited to get finished with it.
With all 10 booster segments now fully stacked on the mobile launcher, there's just one final piece of the puzzle to round out the power needed to get SLS off the ground and send it to space. Core stage. After a 900-mile journey aboard NASA's Pegasus barge, the SLS core stage, the largest rocket stage NASA has ever built, has made it to Kennedy Space Center.
Today is a huge day. This is the last piece of big hardware that we need for Artemis 1 processing. And we've just been waiting a long time for this part of the vehicle to arrive so that we can get going on the next steps of our stacking operations.
Standing an impressive 212 feet tall and weighing a whopping 188,000 pounds, the core stage came all the way from Stennis Space Center in Mississippi. The core stage went through round after round of rigorous testing, including what's called its Green Run series, truly putting its performance to the test. The series involved 8 rounds that looked at systems individually before culminating in pure power. With over 700,000 gallons of propellant flowing through the core stage and its RS-25 engines firing for 8 minutes straight, the successful final test resulted in some big emotions from the team.
We cried, we laughed, and we cheered because it was so emotional to see, the years of culmination coming through.
And that victory did not come without overcoming a few challenges, proving why at NASA we test as frequently and as hard as we do.
And we got to shut down. All personnel.
So we actually did a 1-minute test on the first hot fire test. And then we learned a lot from that. We understood the vehicle more, we made a few changes, and then we got back into our second hot fire test.
There was a lot of joy and workmanship and ownership of being able to work that process and be able to get it done. When we went for the second hot fire, and we went for the 500 seconds, that was just pure exhilaration.
Following its arrival at Kennedy, teams moved the core stage into the VAB, where it was lifted by a crane and placed in between the twin solid rocket boosters. Serving as the backbone of the rocket, the core stage will provide more than 2 million pounds of thrust to help send the Orion spacecraft on its trip around the moon.
Essentially, we have these 2 massive cranes that are located inside of the VAB, where we go ahead and we pick 2 points at the end of the core stage, one on the back portion of it and on the front portion of it. We lift it up to the point where we're able to transition it from a horizontal position over into a vertical position, and then essentially bring it way up to the top of the vehicle assembly building and cross it over into High Bay 3, in which we ensure that we don't damage any part of the vehicle as it's incoming into its position.
NASA's largest rocket stage, now fully integrated with the twin boosters, is ready to get Orion off the Earth. But it will take one more critical component to give the capsule that extra push it needs to journey tens of thousands of miles beyond the Moon. With just a single RL-10 engine, the Interim Cryogenic Propulsion Stage, or ICPS, will provide over 20,000 pounds of thrust to send Orion on the ride of a lifetime. To connect the ICPS with the rocket stack, teams next added the launch vehicle stage adapter to the core stage, followed by the ICPS.
The ICPS is the Interim Cryogenic Propulsion Stage, and essentially it's somewhat of the upper stage of the entire SLS vehicle. And what that will do is propel the Orion capsule along with its service module over to its destination, which at this point in time will be the Moon.
But before the spacecraft can be attached to the rocket, teams will conduct a series of tests to ensure all of SLS's components communicate properly with one another, plus the ground systems equipment, the launch control systems, and its software. Adding to the challenge, those methods for testing have changed significantly since the days of the Apollo program. Initially built in the 1960s to house assembly of the Saturn V, the VAB has undergone some major modifications to support several different kinds of rockets and spacecraft, whether they're going into low Earth orbit or venturing to deep space.
This high bay was shuttle heritage. Before that, it was Apollo heritage. So there's upgrades that are still occurring today to include upgrades that will support Artemis II and Artemis III.
When SLS blasts off from Kennedy's Launch Pad 39B, Orion isn't the only thing it will be sending to space. Hitching a ride with Orion are tiny shoebox-sized satellites called CubeSats that were loaded into the Orion stage adapter in Kennedy's Space Station Processing Facility. The extra room in the stage adapter provides a rare opportunity to send those CubeSats to deep space to conduct science and research of their own. And these CubeSats are on tap to study a range of topics, from the Moon to asteroids to the effect of space radiation on living organisms. At this point, the stack is nearly complete. All that's missing is the spacecraft itself, which has been in the Launch Abort System facility, getting outfitted with one of the spacecraft's most crucial pieces.
The Launch Abort System is kind of that pointy solid rocket motor that's at the top of Orion, and it's there to protect the crew in the event of an emergency, so it's a very important system.
Fully integrated with its Launch Abort System, the Orion spacecraft slowly makes its way to the VAB in the overnight hours. Upon its arrival, teams carefully lift and lower it onto the Orion stage adapter. With this operation, stacking the most powerful rocket the world has ever seen is complete. And what a sight to behold.
We're trying to decide, what does exploration look like in the future when we retire shuttle? You know, what does our nation want to do? Where do we want to go? How do we want to explore? To see it go from those days of words and ideas in people's heads to the 3 programs we have today and the Artemis mission and all the hardware that's been produced in factories ranging from big aerospace companies to little mom and pop shops all over the country and the world. It's unbelievable, and I'm just really proud.
Before SLS and Orion can launch our nation into a new era of space exploration, a series of tests needs to take place inside the VAB, validating the rocket and spacecraft as an integrated system and paving the way for one final milestone: wet dress rehearsal. The 322-foot-tall, fully integrated rocket will roll out to Launch Pad 39B for a full test, allowing the launch team to run through a full launch countdown, but stopping just short of firing the engines.
I think we're going to be so proud when it rolls out of the VAB. I will personally be probably crying a little bit because it's such a big event. We worked so hard to get us to the day of rolling out. I'm probably going to be bawling when we launch it. See it through my tears because it's just a culmination of so much work from everybody.
We owe the advancement of science and research and technology to what we're doing here.
Sitting patiently on its launch pad in the Central Asian desert, Soyuz MS-25 is ready once again to begin its journey to the International Space Station, and we're in the final minutes of the countdown. You are looking live at Launch Pad 6, Site 31 at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, where that Soyuz 2.1A booster stands fully fueled once again, ready for launch to send an American astronaut, a Roscosmos cosmonaut, and a spaceflight participant from Belarus into orbit, this time on a 2-day journey to reach their destination, the International Space Station. Good morning from Mission Control in Houston and the International Space Station Flight Control Room here at the Johnson Space Center. Countdown clocks are ticking backward for the launch of the Soyuz MS-25 spacecraft atop its Soyuz booster at 7:36 and 10 seconds a.m. Central Time, 8:36 and 10 seconds a.m. Eastern Time, 5:36 and 10 seconds p.m. Baikonur Time. At the launch site, you can see that the gantry arms are spreading. They'll move into a horizontal position relative to the launch vehicle that was fully fueled several hours ago by launch engineers in Baikonur, a process that was completed without any incident. The launch control team in Baikonur reports all systems are go for launch, with no issues being worked as the countdown enters its final phase. And you're looking inside the descent module of the Soyuz vehicle at NASA astronaut Tracy Dyson, who in just 34 minutes and 20 seconds will begin her third flight into space, joined on this mission to the International Space Station by Roscosmos cosmonaut and Soyuz commander Oleg Novitsky and spaceflight participant Marina Vasilevskaya of Belarus, the first Belarusian to fly in space. Today, unlike the first launch attempt on Thursday, because of orbital mechanics, results in a 34-orbit 2-day journey to the International Space Station with a launch window of 25 seconds in duration, a launch into a phase angle of 201.8 degrees, a rather wide corridor because of the long phasing required for this Soyuz to reach the International Space Station. Docking is scheduled now on Monday at 10:09 a.m. Central Time, 11:09 a.m. Eastern Time, to the Prishal node module on the Earth-facing side of the Russian segment of the International Space Station. In Baikonur, the temperature is 48 degrees Fahrenheit, partly cloudy skies for today's launch attempt. Once the hatches are open between the newly arrived Soyuz and the station on Monday, Dyson, Novitsky, and Vasilevskaya will be greeted by Station Commander Oleg Kononenko of Roscosmos and his crewmates, Alexander Grabenkin and Nikolai Chub, and NASA astronauts Laurel O'Hara, Matt Dominic, Mike Barrett, and Jeanette Epps. After 12 days on board, enabling Vasilevskaya to conduct experiments on behalf of Belarus researchers, Novitsky, Vasilevskaya, and O'Hara will depart in the Soyuz MS-24 spacecraft, the new departure date April 6th, heading for a parachute-assisted landing on the steppe of Kazakhstan. Dyson will remain on board the station through September, returning home at that time with Kononenko and Chub on Soyuz MS-25. Dyson will have spent 6 months in space on this, her third flight into space, while Kononenko and Chub will come home after completing a full year on orbit. We're at the T-minus 32-minute mark in the countdown. Again, all systems are reported go, no issues reported for today's launch attempt. This launch for Dyson to the space station mirrors that of Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Grabenkin, who launched to the station as part of the SpaceX Crew 8 Dragon earlier this year, providing a reciprocal crew exchange capability, maintaining safe and continuous space station operations. The initial attempt to launch Soyuz MS-25 on Thursday was scrubbed at the T-minus 20-second mark when the automatic launch sequencer cut off the countdown. The crew was never in any danger as the Soyuz booster was safed, enabling the crew to be extracted from the Soyuz within an hour, after which they returned to their Cosmonaut Hotel crew quarters to brush up on some final training. Engineers in Baikonur determined that the cause of the scrub was a low voltage rating in the booster's first stage electrical system. Batteries were changed and retested Friday morning, setting the stage for today's launch attempt.
To operator 5. The service tower has been made horizontal. Copy. Oh. Evacuation into the safe zone was completed for the personnel. Copy.
As you look at the Soyuz MS-25 on the launch pad at Baikonur approaching the T-minus 30-minute mark, here in Mission Control in Houston, we're about to do a shift handover from Orbit 1 to Orbit 2. The Orbit 1 team has been on console throughout the course of the overnight hours and just finished supervising the flawless docking of the SpaceX Dragon cargo ship to the Harmony module's Zenith docking port. That occurred less than an hour ago. That cargo Dragon delivering some 3 tons of supplies and science equipment to the International Space Station that will be on board for about a 5-week delivery mission. This live view of the Soyuz MS-25 on the launch pad at Baikonur, again liftoff scheduled for 7:36 and 10 seconds a.m. Central Time, 5:36 and 10 seconds p.m. in Baikonur. Atop that booster, strapped into the seats of the descent module, are NASA's Tracy Dyson, Oleg Novitsky of Roscosmos, and spaceflight participant Marina Vasilevskaya of Belarus. Novitsky, as the Soyuz commander, is in the center seat of the Soyuz MS-25. Dyson is seated to his right. You've seen scenes of Dyson from interior cameras. Vasilevskaya is seated to the left of Novitsky.
To Operator 1. All the preparations have been complete, and the service personnel has been evacuated into...
Once the crew climbed aboard the Soyuz and strapped into their respective seats, there were leak checks that were performed on their Sokol launch and entry suits. Everything has checked out in great shape. And as you can hear from time to time, there is that traditional music being piped up to the crew in the descent module. That is traditional to help them relax in the final stages of a countdown for launch.
Copy. You are go to sign off.
And now this footage that was recorded earlier showing some of the activities again on a partly cloudy day in Baikonur. The launch day began several hours ago as the crew departed their Cosmonaut Hotel crew quarters to traditional farewell music and boarded a bus for the 40-minute ride to the integration and suit-up facility at Building 254 inside the Baikonur Cosmodrome.
Thank you, thank you.
And as you see, a large crowd of well-wishers 2 days after that first launch attempt, still on the scene, greeting the crew and wishing them best wishes as they boarded the bus to head out to their suit-up facility. And as usual, the buses, the prime crew in the first bus, the backup crew in the second bus, left the parking lot outside the Cosmonaut Hotel for this 40-minute journey into the Cosmodrome to the Site 254 suit-up facility. After arriving at the integration building, each crew member underwent final medical exams, suited up in their SOCA launch and entry suits, and entered this room, divided from their friends and families and officials by a protective pane of glass to maintain quarantine, and conducted leak checks on their suits one by one. Tracy Dyson was first into the mock-up of the Soyuz seat. There's Novitsky on the left, Vasilevskaya on the right. Each crew member, one by one, underwent these pressure checks to make sure that their suits were free of any leaks. These leak checks typically take about 20 minutes to complete, as one by one this ensures that the SOCA launch and entry suits are airtight and ready to support the launch by the Soyuz MS-25 into orbit. And you see part of the crowd of family members and well-wishers on the other side of that protective pane of glass. As you watch this video that was captured earlier today, before the crew headed for the launch pad, the current status, we're at T-minus 23 minutes and counting to the launch of Soyuz MS-25, the crew aboard the descent module of the Soyuz vehicle.
Hello again. There was a little less we had to do this morning.
Good.
It was good. And the other thing we did, we kind of made our own tradition. You know how we sign the door to our room, and we usually put the date. Well, we put today's date underneath the other date, so.
Oh, yeah.
So now we have 2 dates.
Yeah.
But that's gonna be it. We're pulling talks, we're going today.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah, they cut us off like we weren't even like 3 minutes. The familiarity, the fact that we're all we woke up with a pretty good vibe this morning, so
Yeah,
it's good.
Okay, all right.
It's the grass at our home, so it's a very nostalgic song about being in space and into it. So.
Oh yeah, energizing.
Tammy's got a good song too.
What? I'm talking to Mike. I can't hear you.
No, I just said Tammy actually shared a song with us. She sang a song for us.
Oh.
But I don't think we're gonna get it out of her right now.
They might have iPods, but I'm kind of hoping that Marina will sing for us. She's got a beautiful voice.
You're gonna have to sing too, though, probably.
If she runs out of songs, I'll back her up. She did.
Yeah.
Don't say national anthem, because that was a scary.
I saw your most recent video.
Field? You gonna go the same
We
place?
just follow Ksenia. Yeah. Go wherever she tells us.
Yeah. You're safest that way. How are you doing, Ksenia? You good? Cool. Good. We had hot chocolate this morning, so.
I bet that was good.
It was tasty. We hadn't had hot chocolate since the summer. Good. I'll stop talking.
Привет.
Здравствуйте всем. Спасибо, что...
Доченька, ты молодец. По тебе видим, что крепишься, настроена на пол.
Tracy Dyson, there you saw exchanging words with her husband.
Absolutely ready. Yes, today
saying we have a good vibe for today.
Stay this way. I'd just like to board the capsule and fly. Our commander told us that we have already been through a dress rehearsal and everything should be good today. And I love you so very much. You are my large family. Thank you. Thank you for supporting us. It's such a great pleasure to have your support, and it's a great experience. Well, on the one hand, it's great to take shorter time to fly to the station, but on the other hand, now we will have more time to adapt to the microgravity and to admire our beautiful planet.
As you know, this is my husband, George.
Hello. You guys are very quiet. I have a question. Do you have anything for April's Fool's Day ready in your pocket? Well, maybe. Everything's been great. All is well. All right, well, see you soon. Goodbye.
How many times have you had a launch delay before, Oleg? Is this your first? Сколько задержка? Первый раз на переноске.
It's the first time ever that we have our launch rescheduled. Well, I had it many times before, but for us it was the first time. It's okay. Everything is good.
Ken Bowersox, NASA's Associate Administrator for Space Operations, having an opportunity to talk to Oleg Novitsky, and then Roscosmos, Belarus, and NASA managers talk to the crew.
Did you sleep? How are you feeling? We are rested. Everything is great. And the weather is better today. It's kind of sunny. Right. So everything will be beautiful. Well, you'll take a little longer to get to the ISS, but I think that for those who are first-time flyers, it would be great to admire the Earth. And we wish you all the best. Have a great mission. Be quiet, be strong, and we love you. We will be waiting for you on the ground.
Then, of course, the familiar scene of the crew members leaving that Site 254 integration building. This allows Novitsky, the Soyuz commander, to report that he and his crewmates were ready to proceed to the launch pad. Final farewells as the crew boarded the bus for the trip out to Launch Site 31, a trip that ultimately took about an hour to complete. And the buses leaving the parking lot of the 254 Integration Building, that suit-up facility. And the buses arriving at the launch pad with the rocket already fully fueled. The three crew members escorted to the stairs, the stairwell at the base of the Soyuz 2.1A booster. They climbed a few stairs, waved goodbye to well-wishers, and entered the elevator there for the ride to the top of the Soyuz rocket to board their spacecraft, which they've now been aboard for about 2 hours or so. And there is the elevator carrying the three crew members to the access to their Soyuz booster and the access port to which they enter the Soyuz MS-25 spacecraft, which is encapsulated in the upper stage of the Soyuz. And we are back live now with a view of Soyuz 2.1A with the crew on top of that vehicle, as we are now at T-minus 13 minutes and counting. At the time of launch, at 7:36 and 10 seconds a.m. Central Time, 8:36 and 10 seconds a.m. Eastern Time, the International Space Station and its 7 crew members will be flying 262 statute miles over the South Pacific, west of South America. The key milestones on the ascent for the 3 crew members: after liftoff, first stage separation of the liquid-fueled solid rockets will take place at the 1-minute 58-second mark. The launch shroud jettison that encapsulates the actual capsule in which the crew is strapped in will occur at the 2-minute 33-second mark into ascent. At the 4-minute 37-second mark, we'll have second stage shutdown and separation. The third stage engine on the Soyuz booster will then fire for 4 minutes and 9 seconds, with third stage shutdown at the 8-minute 46-second mark, followed 3 seconds later by third stage separation. The automatic command will then be given to deploy the Soyuz spacecraft's solar arrays and navigational antennas, and the chase will be on to reach the International Space Station on Monday, resulting in a docking to the Prishal node module on the Earth-facing side of the station's Russian segment, docking on Monday scheduled at 10:09 a.m. Central Time, 11:09 a.m. Eastern Time. The NASA delegation attending today's launch has actually been in Baikonur since Sunday, a day before this Soyuz booster rolled out to its launch pad. With the NASA delegation is NASA Public Affairs Officer Leah Cheshire, who filed this report a short time ago.
Hi, Rob. We're here at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, standing by for the launch of NASA astronaut Tracy Dyson and the Soyuz MS-25 crew. We are at the viewing site just a couple of miles from the launch pad. This is where we were a couple of nights ago when we were expecting launch on the initial attempt. Of course, there was some surprise when we had a scrub. However, the NASA contingent is still here along with Tracy's family and friends, and we are here to support her, and we're really excited to see her launch tonight. The temperature now is about mid-50s, so a little bit warmer than we saw a couple of days ago. And the crew is currently aboard the Soyuz spacecraft. Now, in the last couple of days, they've been reviewing their 34-orbit rendezvous procedures. Initially, they were expecting a 2-orbit rendezvous, so there are some additional procedures that they needed to look over to make sure they were prepared for this new phasing. So we are here standing by and looking forward to seeing Soyuz take to the skies tonight. With that, I will send it back to you, Rob.
Thank you very much, Leah. We are at T-minus 9 minutes, 27 seconds and counting to the launch of Soyuz MS-25. Two key milestones that will be coming up in the final minute of the countdown. You can see at the bottom of your screen there are two umbilical towers that are buttressed up against the side of the Soyuz booster. The first of those two umbilicals will retract at about the T-minus 30-second mark in the countdown. And then the key moment, the second of those two umbilicals, will retract at about the T-minus 15 seconds mark. That will initiate the automatic launch sequence that will trigger the ignition of the first stage engines. That is what did not occur on Thursday at the T-minus 20-second mark, resulting in that launch abort that we went through. Although the system did exactly what it was designed to do, it safed the vehicle, allowing the crew to be safely extracted less than an hour after the countdown was halted. So we'll keep a close eye on the retraction of those two umbilicals in the final minute of the countdown. We're approaching T-minus 8 minutes and counting. At the T-minus 7-minute mark, pre-launch operations will be complete. The Soyuz booster will be declared ready for launch by the launch conductor at the blockhouse in Baikonur, and all telemetry will have been received from the rocket indicating that the primary and backup systems are set to support liftoff. As is the case with any launch to the International Space Station, the launch is precisely timed for the moment when the Earth's rotation places the Baikonur Cosmodrome in the plane or corridor of the orbit of the space station, which is inclined 51.6 degrees to either side of the equator. And because today's orbital mechanics requires a 2-day rendezvous instead of a 2-orbit rendezvous, with basically a 3-hour journey from launch to docking, there is a larger corridor for which the Soyuz to enter to begin its chase to catch up to the International Space Station.
Readiness. Copy.
Kazbeki, this is launch lit. 1 minute
The measurement
readiness.
system is
the
ready.
Control is on board. Everything is according to the schedule, and I will tell you everything about the launch sequence. Copy. We are ready for launch. Everything is nominal on board.
We're now at T-minus 6 minutes, 40 seconds and counting, as you heard through the interpreter. The launch conductor in Baikonur telling the crew that everything is in readiness for launch. Coming up in just a couple of seconds, that launch conductor will insert a launch key in the launch bunker. This is a real key that transitions the launch sequence into the automatic mode for the final 6 minutes of the countdown.
The space vehicle is ready for launch. Copy.
Launch key inserted.
T-minus 5 minutes, 50 seconds and counting. Launch Control will soon report that the range at Baikonur is clear and that the Soyuz rocket is ready to begin its journey. The Soyuz 2.1A booster, fueled with kerosene and liquid oxygen, for an 8-minute, 46-second ride to deliver Soyuz MS-25 into its preliminary orbit. Coming up on T-minus 5 minutes, all systems are go for launch.
Purge in progress.
The fuel lines and other elements of the rocket engines currently being purged with nitrogen. This fireproofs those fuel lines by removing excess vapors of fuel and oxidizer. T-minus 4 minutes, 30 seconds and counting. At the T-minus 2 minute 45 second mark, the booster's fuel tanks will be pressurized for flight. T-minus 3 minutes, 45 seconds until launch. Again, everything in readiness to send Tracy Dyson, Oleg Novitsky, and Marina Vasilevskaya skyward. Tracy Dyson about to embark on her third flight into space. Novitsky's fourth flight into space. He's already accrued 531 days of spaceflight experience. Vasilevskaya about to begin her first flight into space, the first Belarusian to fly in space.
Draining.
2 minutes, 55 seconds and counting. The fuel tanks being drained of any excess fuel not required for the trip to orbit. The fuel tanks soon will be pressurized for flight to optimize the flow of fuel and to help add structural support to the rocket.
Copy all reports.
Pressurizations initiated.
Pressurization. Pressurization confirmed.
T-minus 2 minutes and counting.
All reports are confirmed and copied.
In the next 20 seconds, the ground propellant feed will be terminated to the Soyuz booster. T-minus 1 minute, 30 seconds and counting. Coming up on the T-minus 1 minute mark, the Soyuz now going on internal power. About 20 seconds away from the retraction of that first umbilical.
Vehicle to internal power.
Ground vehicle.
There's the retraction of the first umbilical, T-minus 30 seconds and counting.
All reports have been copied.
Auto sequence initiated.
Launch.
Second umbilical now retracting.
Ignition.
This initiates engine start. We now have engine ignition.
Preliminary.
Turbo pumps and engines up to flight speed, now at full throttle.
Engines to maximum thrust.
We have liftoff. Dyson, Novitsky, and Vasilevskaya finally underway on a 2-day journey to the International Space Station.
All parameters are nominal.
Good roll, pitch, and yaw program. The Soyuz heading downrange, heading to the northeast from the Baikonur Cosmodrome.
20 seconds into the flight.
All thrusters are performing normally from the blockhouse in Baikonur.
30 seconds.
40 seconds into the flight. All rocket performance is declared nominal at this point.
The vehicle stabilization is performing nominally.
Good vehicle stabilization, good first stage performance.
50 seconds. The pressure in the manifolds is nominal. Everything is good.
Good engine performance.
60 seconds. Pitch, yaw, and roll are nominal.
Should be heading into the regime of maximum dynamic pressure a moment or two from now.
All parameters of the booster are nominal. Everything is good on board. All is well.
Novitsky reporting everything is good on board. Good vehicle parameters at the 1-minute 40-second mark into the flight.
Parameters are nominal.
Passing through max Q.
Copy. Pitch, roll, and yaw are nominal.
Good vehicle parameters. And we have first stage set.
So the lateral boosters have separated. We confirm that, and
the Soyuz now at 28 statute miles in altitude, traveling about 3,300 miles an hour downrange from the Baikonur Cosmodrome at the 2-minute 25-second mark into the flight.
140 seconds into the flight. All parameters are nominal. All is good on board.
Good reports up to the crew from the blockhouse in Baikonur as we pass the 2-minute 40-second mark into the flight. This second stage engine will burn for 2 minutes and 37 seconds. Launch shroud jettison has now been confirmed.
170 seconds into the flight, the vehicle stabilization is nominal, and the crew are feeling well. Copy.
This view inside, momentarily inside, saw Novitsky and Vasilevskaya.
Always good on board.
3.5 minutes into the flight, all reports are nominal from the blockhouse in Baikonur.
$220 seconds into the flight. The flight is nominal. All is well on board. Copy, Kazbeki.
Four minutes into the flight. The second stage engine is performing normally. It will shut down at the 4-minute 37-second mark into the flight.
250 seconds.
Yaw, pitch, and roll reported in good shape. Good vehicle parameters, good stability.
Параметры системы управления ракетой-носителем в норме. 280. Шел гарантийный наддув бака окислителя третьей ступени.
The third stage oxidizer tank has been pressurized.
Second stage has separated.
And we have confirmation of second stage shutdown, third stage engine up and running. 5 minutes, 6 seconds into the flight. The third stage will burn for 4 minutes and 9 seconds in the final phase of the Soyuz MS-25's climb to its preliminary orbit.
The vehicle stabilization is nominal. All is well on board, and the crew are feeling well.
So far, so good at the 5.5-minute mark into the flight. The third stage engine is performing as advertised. About 3 minutes of powered flight remaining. Liftoff occurred on time at 7:36 and 10 seconds a.m. Central Time, 8:36 and 10 seconds a.m. Eastern Time. This third stage engine is providing about 67,000 pounds of thrust during its 4-minute burn to deliver the Soyuz to its preliminary orbit. The reports are all good from Novitsky, the Soyuz commander in the center seat of the Soyuz descent module. 6 minutes, 35 seconds into the flight. Two minutes of powered flight remaining.
Seconds into the flight, the vehicle stabilization is performing nominally.
Mark 7 minutes into the flight. Good reports continuing to come in from the blockhouse in Baikonur. Once the Soyuz separates from its third stage, control of its journey to the International Space Station will be in the hands of those flight controllers you're seeing in this balcony camera view from the Russian Mission Control Center in Korolyov outside of Moscow.
Thruster continues to fire.
7 minutes, 30 seconds into the flight.
150 seconds into the flight. The flight is nominal.
1 minute of powered flight remaining. All of the Soyuz boosters' parameters are normal. Good engine performance so far. Eight minutes into the flight. The crew is feeling well on board, and all structural parameters of the vehicle are reported nominal.
The vehicle is nominal.
30 seconds of powered flight remaining.
It's 500 into the flight.
8.5 minutes into the flight, the crew being told to prepare for third stage engine shutdown and spacecraft separation, that we're standing by.
520 seconds into the flight. All parameters are nominal.
And we have third stage shutdown and third stage separation.
Separation is confirmed.
The command now will be given to deploy the Soyuz solar arrays. That now underway.
Kazbeki, MCC Moscow.
And the solar arrays and navigational antennas have all been deployed. Perfect ride to orbit for Tracy Dyson, Oleg Novitsky, and Marina Vasilevskaya. The two-day chase to catch up to the International Space Station now underway.
Kazbeki, MCC Moscow. Kazbeki, MCC Moscow. Kazbeki, MCC Moscow. How do you copy? If you can hear me, could you please go to page 35? Kazbeki, MCC Moscow. This is Kazbek. How do you copy? We copy you loud and clear. How do you copy us? I copy you loud and clear. Excellent. So the KDU repress has already deactivated. Yes, that's correct. And RPV open. And have you left the display ascent? Yes, we have. And everything is nominal. Yes, that's right. On TSV, we have the message 1548, the emergency of sector number 3. What about PS1 LED? No, it is not illuminated.
This is a post-insertion conversation between the interpreter, who is relaying information up to Oleg Novitsky, the Soyuz commander aboard the MS-25.
Pressure 799.
All of the Soyuz systems are reported to be in excellent shape following its 8-minute, 46-second climb to orbit atop a Soyuz 2.1A booster, the crew in its preliminary orbit.
And send the command. Copy.
Coming up on this two-day rendezvous will be two burns in the next couple of hours called DV1 and DV2. That stands for delta velocity. Those are essentially altitude raised burns that will stair-step an increase in the Soyuz altitude to begin to match that of the International Space Station.
The dynamic mode enabled via Karel command radio link. We confirm.
Once again, 2 days after the launch was scrubbed because of a low voltage reading in the Soyuz booster's first stage, the batteries in the first stage were replaced and retested. The launch was rescheduled for today and went off without a hitch, with liftoff at 7:36 and 10 seconds a.m. Central Time, 8:36 and 10 seconds a.m. Eastern Time. A perfect climb to orbit, no issues during the three-stage performance of the Soyuz booster as it delivered Tracy Dyson, Oleg Novitsky, and Marina Vasilevskaya into their preliminary orbit for what today is a 34-orbit, two-day rendezvous to the station, as opposed to what it would have been on Thursday, which would have been a two-orbit rendezvous. That is simply dictated by Johannes Kepler and his law of orbital mechanics and the position of the International Space Station relative to where the launch site of the Baikonur Cosmodrome was today versus Thursday.
I am ready to report, as you know, data starting with parameter 17, 16.9, number 18, 16.9, 19, 262, number 20, 0, number 21, 2, number 22, 323, number 23, 322, number 24, 13.9, number 25. Inaudible 0.3, number 26, 261. Propellant 8, inaudible. Copy. Казбеки, MCC Moscow. Go ahead.
Ответил, Казбек, как принимаете меня?
MCC Moscow, Казбек. Yes. The compass will be complete at 15:46. After the compass, could you please monitor the compartments and after
The solar arrays and navigational antennas on the Soyuz MS-25 all deployed in perfect fashion, and the first self-test, if you will, a diagnostics test on the core's automated rendezvous system on the Soyuz is being performed, and reports now from the Russian Mission Control Center, which has taken over control of the flight of Soyuz MS-25, indicates that all of the Soyuz systems are in excellent shape.
Казбеки, Moscow. How do you copy? We copy loud and clear, Казбеки.
While we have watched the launch of Tracy Dyson to the International Space Station along with Oleg Novitsky and Marina Vasilevskaya, aboard the International Space Station, NASA astronaut Laurel O'Hara is preparing to open the hatch to the Dragon cargo ship, the SpaceX cargo ship, that docked to the International Space Station at 6:19 a.m. Central Time, 7:19 a.m. Eastern Time this morning, delivering some 3 tons of supplies and scientific experiments to the Expedition 70 crew.
If you copy us, the PSR time on page 41. So 16:18, 16:37. Казбеки, the ascent was nominal. All the structures have deployed. All parameters of the orbit are nominal. You can loosen your shoulder straps, open your visors, and also deactivate the thermal sensors. So we allow you the actions in the box.
As you can hear, with everything operating perfectly on board the Soyuz spacecraft, the crew has been told to loosen their restraint straps in their seats in the descent module, open their helmet visors, and begin to get comfortable as they begin a 2-day journey to the International Space Station.
Do you copy me? This is the flight lead number 19. Yuri Ivanovich is calling Казбеки.
Ребята, слышите нас?
Guys, do you copy me?
This is Mission Control Houston, with the Soyuz MS-25 safely in orbit following its perfect climb to orbit. Now that it launched from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, all is well, with 3 more crew members headed for the International Space Station. They will arrive at the station on Monday morning, temporarily increasing the station's population for 12 days to 10 crew members on board. That will set the stage for the departure of Novitsky, Vasilevskaya, and NASA's Laurel O'Hara on April 6th. But before that, docking coverage lies ahead, and we'll be back on NASA television with all of that on Monday morning, with our coverage beginning at 9:15 a.m. Central Time, 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time, setting up a docking by the Soyuz to the Prishal node module on the Earth-facing side of the Russian segment of the International Space Station at 11:09 a.m. Eastern, 12:09 p.m. 11:09 a.m. Eastern Time, 10:09 a.m. Central Time. So, the doubleheader for today is complete. A Dragon docked to the station, carrying supplies for the expedition crew, and the launch of 3 new crew members to the International Space Station followed in perfect fashion. Dyson, Novitsky, and Vasilevskaya on their way to arrive at the station on Monday morning. We'll be back with our coverage on Monday morning, again beginning at 9:15 a.m. Central Time, 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time, with rendezvous and docking coverage for Soyuz MS-25. Until then, have a great weekend. We'll sign off for now from Mission Control in Houston.
It's a new era of pioneers, star sailors, thinkers, and adventurers.
3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running.
Let's go.
We have been given the scientific knowledge, the technical ability, and the material to pursue the exploration of the universe.
Hi, I'm Carol Scott, and I help astronauts get to the International Space Station. And this is Ask NASA.
Liftoff of the Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon. Go NASA, go SpaceX, Godspeed, Bob and Doug.
So Launch America is all about utilizing our commercial companies to be able to launch astronauts to the International Space Station from America's soil on American-made rockets. So this is a unique partnership that the government has formed with the commercial partners. We are leading and guiding them. We have provided SpaceX and Boeing. We've given them some requirements and